talk to you about a revenue-generating business. I'll start out by saying, my ask is very clear. I want to make sure it's very clear, as we start our conversation. The ask is really around a capital dollar investment and operational budget to expand our specialty pharmacy medication service. Many of you may say, what is specialty pharmacy? So I'll give you a quick example. How many of you in the room have seen the commercials for Parvoni, the drug that cures hepatitis C? We haven't had a cure for hepatitis C for our entire existence. We do now. How many of you want to guess how much one course, 12 weeks of therapy is for Parvoni? Some of you know, because you heard my presentation yesterday. $180,000. So specialty medications are those medications. It's the medications that cure life-threatening diseases, but that are so expensive our patients can't afford them. I have so many stories that I can share with you around ways we've serviced patients in Novant Health with that very issue. So that's specialty medications. What I want to tell you is that the vision for expansion of specialty pharmacy is a win-win for the organization. We currently have investments in the Winston market where we have specialty service. It's very strong. We have touch points throughout the Winston market. We lack those in the Charlotte market. So we have patients who have a gap in care, and so instead of getting that care from Novant, they're moving to, let's say, Accredo is our primary competitor, if you will, in the Charlotte market space. So we recognize that as not the best care we can give at Novant Health. So, we don't want to service patients in one market and not provide the same service in another. Oh, I feel like I can't see you, so I'm going to scoot a little bit. So what we're looking at today is really a service, a revenue-generating business that aligns with our strategic imperatives. It aligns with our priorities, in particular patient satisfaction. Quality is enormous here. These patients need around-the-clock medication management. We're URAC accredited today at Novant Health. We're one of only 2 in the whole U.S. to receive URAC accreditation first. We received it first, not number 2. So I'm proud of that. So I think that shows the expertise and performance behind our specialty program. So as we think about what makes this a win-win for the organization, let me tell you some facts around what we've achieved today. So we started our program in 2014 with no net new resources, existing resources, and we beat our 5-year projections in 3 years. So we achieved our 5-year projections for the program in 3. So really happy around the financial performance and the quality performance that we were able to show for the organization. But what I really want to talk about are 3 things that I think are the most important around this program. The first is quality. So to be able to compete with the competitors who are knocking on our doorsteps. Most of you, I know Jeff knows that Walgreens is banging on our door today saying, hey, let us take your specialty business. Of course they want our specialty business because they can see what the value of it is today. They can also see what the value of it is in 2020 when 90% of the medications that hit the market will be specialty medications. Long gone are the days of generic medications. So of course they want that business. But I'm telling you today that the business we provide at Novant Health is far superior to anything that any other large chain can provide for our patients. So when you think about quality, we really wanted to be able to come in strong with this program and demonstrate that not only could we, prove financial gain for the organization, but the quality piece. So we looked at one cancer drug. The drug's Revlimid. It's used to treat leukemia patients. We looked at patients over a period from 2014 to 2017, so a period of 3 years, and we looked at survival in that patient population. Proud to say we beat the clinical trial data in terms of progression-free survival that got the drug approved to market. So that shows with the right connection points and the network that we have at Novant, care connections, referral to physicians, the web that we have that really wraps around the patient versus the transactional approach that you may get from a Walgreens or a CVS where there's a dispensing component, but you lack all of that other cohesiveness or stickiness, if you will, that really defines what Novant Health is. We know we can do better. If you look at access, one thing that is a benchmark for access in the country around specialty medications is time to delivery. So from the time the patient gets the prescription to the time they actually receive it and are able to take it. We perform 28% better than every other large specialty pharmacy network in the United States. 28%. huge accomplishment. When you look at patient satisfaction, for specialty pharmacy alone, so the patients that receive specialty medication care within the Novant Health system, we have consistently, since 2014, been greater than 90% in Press Ganey top box scores. So patient satisfaction, you can't get that in a transactional approach. This is a wraparound, holistic approach to patient care. So that's some of the facts of the program. Let me share financials, because I'm asking you for capital dollars and an operational budget. So when you look at the financials of the program since 2014, we have brought in gross revenue of $107 million, contribution margin of $33 million. And again, that was with a very lofty proposal, if you will, a 5-year business plan that we delivered on in 3, and with no net new resources. So this work was done on the shoulders and the back of very passionate pharmacists who wanted to see those patients receive care. So what we're asking for moving forward is a capital investment of $750,000 that would help build the infrastructure, if you will, the brick and mortar in the Charlotte market to service those patients the same way we're servicing the patients in Winston and Rowan County. And then in addition to that, an $18 million operational budget for FTEs to support that. And that's a 5-year plan that would be phased year over year. Not all resources in year 1. Of course. When you look at the business case, it's a very strong business case. We partnered with our finance team, Jeff Gardner, his team, we partnered really close with them to look at what is a conservative estimate and what is something that we know we can achieve. I told you we achieved our performance in 3 years. So I'll tell you what we originally estimated was $324 million in gross revenue in 5 years. With that investment, $67 million in contribution margin. What our finance team said was, on a conservative end, let's scale that back a little bit. Even with the conservative estimate, we have a contribution margin of $28 million in 5 years and $7 million in contribution margin. So it's a win-win. And what I'll say in summary to close is that we are in a different place today. The time is right today. And the reason is because the competition, which we knew would come, is knocking on the door of our executives. And they're saying, hey, we can do it, and we can do it better. So the time is now. We have to invest in our own infrastructure now. We do it well. The second thing I'll say to you is that it's for the betterment of our patients. We're serving a whole population, and then we're leaving a whole population out. It's for the betterment of our patients. They need this treatment. And then lastly, it's a sizable revenue opportunity for the organization. It pays itself back in 2 years. And I can promise you, all of you in the room, that we will over-deliver on that promise. We will beat that 5-year mark as we have in previous years because we're passionate about what we do. We put the time in and we work hard for the patient, as everybody in this room does. So I'll pause there and turn it over to you for questions. Regina.
Thank you, Christy. I love the work that you all are doing, and as the HBI leader, love the implications for our service line, and knowing that especially in the cardiology world, more and more patients are going to some of these specialty drugs, and it's high touch. That's PSK9,
Cholesterol medication.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they need a tremendous amount of education around getting that right and staying consistent with it. Can you talk a little bit about the operational side of that and where that $18 million is going and how it will impact?
Yes. So the operational budget will really be invested in FTEs to support the work. As I mentioned to you before, we were able to do quite a bit in 3 years net new, but we had to pull back on a lot of services that we were providing. So that will primarily be an FTE asked to really run the business. And each of those, just so you know, to kind of lean in a little bit to Regina's question, every patient that receives a specialty medication is required by URAC. It's an accreditation body for specialty only. Is required by URAC to have a pharmacist that is assigned to them throughout the course of their therapy. And for some patients, it's lifelong. It's a curative therapy. Most of these are curative therapies, so they have to have a pharmacist that continually follows up with them. And it's not Regina one day, Nisha the next day. It's one pharmacist. That's also a requirement of URAC. You have to have your own pharmacist because they've shown that adherence rates are better when you make a connection. If I make a connection with Nisha and she calls me, and I'm going to be more accountable to what I'm sharing with her versus if Paula calls me one day and Darlene calls me one day. So URAC requires that to get that certification, you have to have one pharmacist attached to every patient. Obviously, our pharmacists carry a load of many patients, but that's where the operational dollars will go. Jeff?
How much of the margin that's projected is dependent on continuing the 340B program?
So the large margin, Jeff, is based on 340B. So when I talked to you about 324 million in gross, 67 in contribution margin, that is accounting for 340B. The conservative estimate that our finance team said, hey, let's assume 340B goes away. We know, we almost lost it at Forsyth. So let's assume it goes away. What does that look like? And it's still a very healthy investment. So that's the second set of numbers I gave you, which was the 27 and 7.
Just out of curiosity, who's number 2? Who's on our heels? Who's number 2? Is that
Walgreens.
number 1?
Walgreens.
Walgreens.
And we're about 50-50 right now with Walgreens and CVS. I mean, they're neck and neck always. You look one month and CVS is top, you look the next month, Walgreens. But again, I think the argument and what I really want to convince our leadership team of is we do it better and we do it in a way that's not transactional. You know what it feels like when you go into a retail pharmacy. It's, would you like to speak to a pharmacist? Here's your prescription. Do you need some OTCs on your way out the door? We provide a concierge service for these patients. And then when they leave our care, we connect them with care connections. We make sure they have their follow-up appointments. We deliver their meds to their home. Sometimes our pharmacists within our pharmacy drive the medication to their homes. So it's a very different approach, and it's the stickiness that makes our business worth more than what a Walgreens or a CVS or anyone else can buy it for. Yeah. Great. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. We're going to turn over for feedback.
Christy, so being in the non-specialty medications, you really presented a convincing case, and I think that says a lot for a topic like this that is a huge investment, although it's a huge revenue as well, but you did a great job with presenting the facts and the data. The data was very impressive, and the other thing I liked of what you did, you went through the rationale, the competitiveness, and then you talked about the financials, which I thought, because you had sold me by the time you got to the financials, even though they were positive. So great job on that. The other thing is your body gestures I thought were really good. You did a great job using your hands to explain. I mean, I was trying to envision some of the content with the way you were using your hands. So I thought that was very good.
Thank you.
So, good eye contact.
I agree with Pat. I think she copied off my paper. And I love the way you started out asking the audience questions to get them immediately engaged in your presentation. Certainly you had the data, and I also love that you connected it back to our strategic imperatives and also to our patient and that connection, and that patient engagement is what we're all about, and I appreciate you bringing it back to that. That was very well done.
Thank you.
I like the way also that you connected it back to imperatives and priorities specifically. And I liked at the end your confidence in being willing to say, we will exceed this target. And that I felt like that was rooted in your team's passion. You said because we have passion, and also in your confidence in your team, which comes across, and I love that.
Thank you.
So I had a lot of the same things that other people said, so I won't repeat them. I like the way you talked about health expertise. You used the word web. You almost, maybe not intentionally, sold me on continuing to support some of the other things like care connections.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the whole web of who we are and what we do that makes us different. You used the term concierge service, which we don't usually use in our space very much. So that was really a new word for me, and in the space seemed to fit super well. I like that you connected with the audience. You specifically connected with Jeff when there was something that related to Jeff. You talked about the fact there are a couple of things that I need to talk about, and they were quality, finance, and it's better for our patients. So you delivered on your promise of talking about 3 things that were important to you. And then I think question and answer is the toughest part of presentation. That's where it all falls apart. Your hands go wild, your voice, and you did not fall apart. You did a great great job in Q&A.
Thank you.
I was gonna, when we get to the other part, I'll leverage that, but your Q&A was where you were the most confident. And you went to a much more relaxed place there. Your speech flowed, and it was like, this is my thing. I can do this, and you have it. And so it was great.
One other thing I meant to say was, the summary. I like the way that you summed up at the end. You made that word obvious that you were getting ready to close, and then you bulleted 2 or 3 things, which I thought was really good.
Thank you.
Good. Thoughts about what would make it even better?
So since I just talked about the Q&A, during your presentation, just watch the ums. I'm an ummer as well, so just watch the ums. It was almost like you were having to think through what you were gonna say next.
Yeah.
And that went away 100% in the Q&A. When you went to the Q&A, you never said and you just flowed with it. And it was like you were really telling the story because it was your area of expertise.
Thank you.
Let me tie on to that, Regina, because, you know, when you did get into that, I noticed that you did pause. So I took that, you know, as a positive because you were reconnecting and thinking about your thoughts. So I think you realized that you were probably doing that and then paused for a little bit, which was very effective.
2 thoughts. I never know exactly what to do when someone introduces me, if I introduce myself or not. But you did not
I did not
introduce
introduce
yourself.
myself, you're right.
But you had already been introduced, and we all know you because you're a rock star. In a room where there might be a single person in the room who doesn't know who you are and what you do, it does lend to your expertise if you just take a moment to say why I'm the one that's in front of you and why I'm the expert, because this is who I am.
Good call.
And then I love the fact that you paid attention to everyone in the room. We talked a lot about that yesterday, and making sure if you need to move your body so that people can see you, you do it. I wouldn't necessarily
Say
call
it
it out.
This was, I feel like on our peekaboo
They told
over
me to
here.
do that, so.